It matters because it shows that he was intent on prosecuting my client. It shows his motive. It shows his bias.
It doesn't, how does it show that?
Your Honor, if you overrule my objection, you can just overrule it or sustain it. I mean,
No, you answer my question. That's how this works, counsel. You
That's
don't
fine.
run this court.
That's fine. Fine.
I'm gonna give you a chance. We've been through this before with you about who runs the courtroom and how it works.
I understand.
Court stands in recess. Sit down. Let's call the case, People versus Jillian Carey.
Ashley Lonnie for the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, yes. Michael Bellata for this case.
All right. Date and time set for preliminary examination. Are we ready to proceed?
People are ready.
Yes, Your Honor. Defense is ready.
All right, very good. Ms. Lundy, you may proceed.
Your Honor, I anticipate calling 3 witnesses and I'm going to sequester those witnesses. And I'd also ask any defense witnesses to be sequestered.
All right.
There are no defense witnesses, Your Honor.
All right.
Furthermore, Your
Witnesses
Honor,
are sequestered.
thank you very much. For the record, I will indicate that our original officer in charge, Deputy Alex Phillips, is not able to be here today. I don't know if the court had heard, he actually got hit by a car while he was working. Yeah, so he's not able to be here. So I'm asking the court let Detective Kevin Parvin sit in my OIC and remain in the courtroom for the exam.
Any objection?
Oh, no objection, Your Honor.
All right. Detective Parvitz may sit in the courtroom. All right. Call your first witness.
Ian Hubert.
Sir, please come forward and be sworn.
When you take a seat, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to affirm the testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you.
See, state and spell your first and last name for the record, please.
Ian Hubert, IANHUBERT.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir. Do you recall the date of November the 15th, 2023? At some point on that date, were you at the address of 827 North Zeeb Road in Ann Arbor?
That's the South Township, yes.
You were at the Scioto Township Hall at some point on that day?
Yes.
And that's in Scioto Township,
Yes.
the county of Washtenaw in the state of Michigan? At some point on that day, did you see the defendant Jillian Carey at that same location?
Yes.
Did you see her using a computer?
The township hall meeting computer, yes.
What was she doing when she was using the township hall meeting computer at that location?
We were about to start a road commission meeting in Scioto Township. It begins at 6:30 in the evening. It's the first Wednesday of every month. And part of running that meeting, it's a public meeting, it's held with Zoom technology. And to start the Zoom meeting, you have to very often get a 2-factor authentication code. So you launch Zoom and it says, hey, we need 2-factor authentication. It sends a 6-digit code to your email address. And at the time when I arrived at the meeting hall, Jillian Carey, Supervisor Carey, was trying to get that 2-factor authentication code via her email.
What did she do or say while using that computer?
When I arrived, she said, Will's email keeps popping up. I said, what do you mean Will's email keeps popping up?
Did she say anything else to you after that?
I don't recall. I think at that point I had to have a look, which is what I would usually do with my background and experience, to try and understand what was going wrong. There's a lot of pressure at the beginning of these public meetings to get the Zoom system set up and running, because obviously it's a public meeting. I believe that it would be an infringement of Open Meetings Act not to have that Zoom call up and running. I happened to get a link that day, And if getting there late that day, you're on a back foot, trying to get the meeting started.
And there's only the one computer, correct?
There is only one computer in the meeting room that is connected, just like in this room where it's connected to the cameras and all the meeting system, yes. So it's a Dell laptop.
Gunnar, may I have a moment, please?
Right.
Later, did you assist in deleting Will Hathaway's email off of that computer?
I didn't delete his email.
What did you do?
I removed the, well, I removed the profile. So what that really means is if you have a computer, publicly accessible computer.
Let's pause there for just 1 second, because I think that's an important piece of this. This is a laptop that has a username and password on a sticky note, right?
That's correct. Anybody can go into that. I mean, they shouldn't, but in theory, they can walk up to that computer and log into that computer. There is a sticky note right next to the computer that has the username and password.
And when a person does that and logs on to this computer using this sort of general username and password, they can also log into their specific accounts. Is that what you're saying?
So for example, if you were starting the Zoom meeting, when you launch the Zoom client, you wouldn't be logged in because different people log in to start their Zoom meetings. So by logging into that laptop, generally most services provided to it or that it offers, you would have to log in to the respective service such as Zoom. If you were collecting email and you were collecting email on a web-based client, then you would have to sign into that.
But if it were not a web-based client, if it were a program on the machine like Outlook, someone could log into that and a different person could log in and that same first person's email would still be in, is what you're saying.
There's two types of emails. There's a browser-based email, and there's a thick client, we would call it, that is actually stored locally on the computer, and all the emails, they're duplicated, they're stored locally on the computer, and also they're stored in Microsoft Cloud. If you were to install the desktop client and want to use that at some point in the history of that computer, you would have to log in with your credentials to authorize that Outlook desktop client to receive that person's email.
Okay. Got it. Thank you very much. 1 second, please, Your Honor.
Oh, what'd you say?
May I just have 1 second, please, Your Honor? Thank you. Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Huber. Do you have a background in computers?
I would say yes. For the last 30 years, I've been working in the software industry. Very proud of what we do. We just had the accomplishment of landing the Mars rover on planet Mars using the software that I work with and the people that I'm lucky enough to work with. So yeah, I'd say I have a fairly deep technical understanding of computers, the code behind them, how they work, how they communicate. Yes.
And how long have you known, did you see Jillian here in court today? Do you see?
Yes.
Okay. And she's sitting where I just stood up from. For the record, could it reflect that the witness is identified, Ms. Carey, Your Honor?
Record show so reflect.
Thank you, Your Honor. And how long have you known Ms. Carey?
5 or 6 years, I would say.
Okay. And have you gone to meetings with her before where she was using the shared Scioto Township laptop?
In the capacity of the road commission, yes.
Okay. And as someone who knows has been involved with computers for so long, and has an expertise. Did she appear to you to be someone who was very knowledgeable about computers?
Just to speculation as to his opinion of her knowledge.
Sustained, you need more foundation.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Was there a reason that you would try to come early to the weekly road advisory commission or committee meetings?
I always try to get there early,
Why?
because I tend to like to take control setting up the meetings. Because I know how to do it, you know, what's my it. Happened that day, I was running late. My daughter had run away. So I got there a little bit later than usually I would have done.
Okay. Did you get there approximately about 6:09 p.m.? Do you recall what time you got there?
I recall on that day that I actually, as I was driving there, I pulled into the wrong entrance. I actually pulled into the Montessori school next door, which further delayed me. I have a geofence on my house, so I know when I come and go.
Okay.
And I think the point that I left, I could look it up, it was 6 minutes after 6.
Okay. How far do you live from the township hall?
Probably 3 to 4 miles, it's kind of 8 to 10 minutes, I want to say. We live on a dirt road, so that's fairly slow.
All right. When you got to the township hall, tell us what happened when you got there. What did you do? And I'm talking, of course, for the record, Your Honor, about the evening of November 15th, 2023 at the Scioto Township Hall. Thank you. You can proceed. What did you do when you got there,
I
Mr.
actually
Hebert?
had a new laptop. So I didn't have, that laptop wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi. So I think the first thing I did was I took a photo of the Wi-Fi password and got the laptop set up, got the coding for it. And I honestly don't remember if Gillian had said, Will's email keeps popping up first, or whether I did my laptop. I would imagine I probably tended to that first. And then obviously, when we host that Zoom meeting, I make myself a co-host on the Zoom meeting.
You're the co-chair, by the way, of the road advisory. You were at the time.
Co-chair. So I co-host that meeting so that I can sit in the meeting with all the other participants. I recall on that day that I was up at the computer a little bit longer. I was concerned that Supervisor Hathaway's email was publicly exposed.
Why did that concern you?
Because it's a huge no-no. You don't ever, it's like walking into an internet cafe and leaving your email on that computer for anybody to have access to that email client. So I realized that it had the Outlook desktop client on the computer.
Let me stop you there, because you distinguished between I think you distinguished in your direct testimony between the Microsoft Outlook desktop versus a web-based Microsoft Outlook where you just put in your credentials anywhere at any location, correct?
Yeah, it might get a little bit more technical if that's okay, but I'll try and explain the difference.
Well, yeah, if you could can you try to keep it at 30,000 feet, maybe, if you can?
I love it. If I walk up to any computer in this room and bring up a web browser like Outlook, like Safari or Chrome or Firefox or Microsoft Edge, I can go to a URL, I can log into that computer and I can look at my email. And sometimes we might remember historically that it would say, are you using a private computer or are you using a public computer? And if you're using a public computer, as soon as you log in, it will get rid of the tokens. It will literally get rid of the keys that are the two-factor authentication. Sorry, that are the authentication keys.
Okay.
If you tell it you're on a private computer, it will keep them for a little bit longer. And so that's the web-based application. Depending on how you use it, it changes behavior. With the desktop application, that is what we often call a thick client. You have to install it. You have to use a username and password. And once they've been put into that computer, they are stored in perpetuity unless you're working for a corporation such as I do, where we are forced over a period of time to re-authenticate with a two-factor code. Scioto Township was not set up that way.
And let me stop you before you keep going further on that. You said, I think in your direct testimony, that you found that Will Hathaway had somebody, and I don't know, do you know who installed the Microsoft Outlook client onto that shared SIO laptop?
So I would imagine that if it's whoever's running the chief admin,
Do you know someone named Chris Bailey?
I do, yes.
Who is Chris Bailey?
He's the IT director, I believe, at Scioto Township.
And when you have a Microsoft client installed on a publicly used computer, if someone were to, the person that had their profile installed on this public computer, if they left themselves signed in to their Outlook, what would happen if any other unsuspecting person walked up and clicked on that icon for Microsoft Outlook?
Anybody can access that email account.
But-
Anybody.
What would you expect to physically happen though if you clicked on was there an icon for Microsoft Outlook, do you recall? If you remember.
I believe, but I'm not totally sure that it was on the taskbar. So the taskbar is at bottom of the Windows system that has icons on it.
Okay, so if you were, let's say Will Hathaway in this case, because you said that he had that installed, correct? He had the
I'm gonna
Outlook.
object to the form of the question. I'm not sure I understand what the question is.
I'll rephrase it. It wasn't a very well worded question, I admit. Did you come to learn by looking at the computer that evening that Mr. Hathaway had an Outlook client installed on that laptop?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna object as to form. I think the question is if the person had it installed, had his client installed.
It was installed on there.
Right, like
Correct.
that's the question.
But it's
if
not-
it was there.
We don't know, you have no personal knowledge as to who did it.
I don't. All I know is that Outlook was installed on that computer and somebody had set up Will Hathaway's.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, but you don't know who did that. So the answer to the question is it was installed.
I'm not trying to get at to who
Go ahead.
installed it. I'm just getting at the fact that it was installed. You confirm that. And my question is, hypothetically, given your experience in your field, if someone were to click on, if Will Hathaway had not logged out of his Outlook client that was installed on that jointly used computer, that laptop, would you expect that if that Outlook was accessed by any other person, that it would open directly to Will Hathaway's email?
I'm objecting to the foundation form of the question. This witness has not been qualified as an expert. He cannot give an opinion of things that he doesn't have personal knowledge about, which is the other part of my objection. He doesn't have personal knowledge about what happened if you would click on this. He has personal knowledge about the profile being logged in. He has personal knowledge about the defendant being there. He has personal knowledge about many things, but he's not been qualified as an expert, nor does he have personal knowledge about clicking on that specifically.
I'm gonna overrule that objection.
Thank you.
I'm gonna allow his answer.
Do you need me to say the question again?
I'm a little bit confused as to where we
All
are.
right, I'll just start over maybe.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Re-ask.
So let's say that Mr. Hathaway, let's say you already testified Will Hathaway had the Microsoft Outlook client installed. Not saying he installed it, but it was installed on the laptop. That's number one, correct?
That is.
And then, so the number two is if Will Hathaway had used that computer to check his emails and he left it open, that is, he didn't log out. Would you expect that whoever came next and tried to open that Outlook would open directly into his email?
Yes.
Okay, and those icons, have you seen the icons that appear on, you said it was on the taskbar, you believe, of the shared laptop?
Yes.
And those icons, do they say Will Hathaway's email next to them? So would anyone have any way to know that it was Will Hathaway's email just by looking at the icon? And when you approached Jillian Carey, what was she doing? Did you come up to her physically when she was trying to get the authentication code as you testified to start the Zoom?
Initially, and then I said, can I take a look?
Okay.
Um,
And when you said, can you take a look? Did she turn the screen away from you? Did she try to hide what she was doing in any way? Did you get the impression that she was doing anything illegal or that she was nervous about you seeing what she was doing?
no, just to reference, when you're setting up a Zoom meeting for a public meeting, it's incredibly stressful.
Okay.
Incredibly stressful.
And then, had you helped her in the past start the Zoom meetings?
I usually try to get there early so I can do it.
Prior to November 15, 2023, do you know if Jillian Carey had ever done the Zoom herself? If you know.
No,
If you know, I don't want you to guess.
maybe, but usually I'm there early enough to do it.
Okay, so you don't know if she's ever even done that before on her own, start the Zoom meeting? Certainly, was this the first time that you saw her attempting to start a Zoom meeting on November 15th, 2023?
I think so.
What did you do after you saw her trying to get her authentication code from her email and saying that Will's keeps popping up? What did you do after that?
I will often log in to Gillian's. She has an account which is racshare@cytotownship.com. I have the credentials for that email account. So what I will usually do is log into her email account to fetch the two-factor authentication. Because when we're logging in with her racshare@cytotownship.org account. And so the email goes to that account. So I will often go in and collect it. Collect that to the 6-digit two-factor authentication code.
And did you do something? You asked questions about this, I think, on direct. Did you do something to fix what you? Well, hold on. Did you do something that night to try to fix a problem? Just ask you that generally, if you recall.
So with Outlook, it doesn't just, you don't log out. So Outlook, the desktop client, it's not like a web-based interface where there's usually up on the right-hand side, you go to your profile and you do log out. That doesn't exist in Outlook desktop, because Outlook desktop is intended for it's intended that it's protected by the login credentials of the computer. So there's no such thing as a logout when you go into Outlook desktop.
I see.
It is possible. It's just not. It's not obvious. And it's not in your nose.
So what did you do then, knowing all that? What did you do?
The best thing that you can do to remove the credentials for an account is to remove a thing called profile. And I would say most people don't even know that exists. But if you remove your profile, you're removing the credentials. But you're not removing like the underlying file structure that is storing everything. So
in other words, the emails and the Outlook itself stays the same. It just is not accessible on that computer, right?
you no longer have an authentication token for that client on that computer. You're breaking the link. And if somebody wanted to come back in and reestablish it, they would have to re-authenticate.
Understood.
So I was just breaking that link.
Okay, and then following the following morning, the morning of November the 16th. Oh, let me back up a second. When Ms. Carey, you referred to as Jillian, when she was trying to start the authentication or start the Zoom and trying to get that authentication code, were there other people in the hall, in the township hall?
I think Bob come in at that point.
Okay, but
Be one of the people that are arriving.
So it's fair to say that sometimes people come early to these meetings prior to the 6:30 start,
Missy, try to get early enough.
sometime between 6 and 6:30, maybe.
Yeah, 6:15, I would say. Is typically fine.
Is it an open building where anyone can walk into the building? If you recall? Or was this during a COVID time still?
Yeah, I think we post-COVID.
Okay. What, was there any prohibition from anyone just walking in and attending the meeting in person? And the following morning, did you learn of an email that got forwarded from Will Hathaway's account at around the same time that you were helping Jillian authenticate the Zoom? Did you learn about it the next morning, or when did you learn about that?
Your Honor, objections to potential hearsay. Not sure what the source of that information is going to be.
I think it needs to be rephrased. I'm gonna sustain that objection. You'll have to start.
Well, I'm just trying to direct, okay, I'll ask a different question. At some point, did you know that there was an issue about how something got sent from Mr. Hathaway's email
Same
from that
question,
evening?
Your Honor.
It's just a setup
I
question.
think he could ask that. So, go ahead.
Did you learn about it? So no.
It was, I actually have a phone call. To be honest, I don't typically answer my phone unless I recognize the number. So I don't know why I picked it up, but it was 4 o'clock, roughly 4 o'clock the following day in the afternoon. That's learned that something had happened.
Did you send it? I'm going to show you the marked exhibit A. Before I do that, did you send an email to Will Hathaway on Thursday morning, the day after at 8:59 a.m.?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and why did you send an email to William Hathaway?
Yes, a couple of things. You know, I'm a taxpayer in Scioto Township, and the last thing that I'm fairly technically savvy. And my observation was that they were living within the dark ages in Scioto Township, and I like to think that I'm a very straight arrow, and I had done something to that computer that impacted Will Hathaway. So I wrote to him explaining what I'd done, why I'd done it. I also offered to do some basic training to Scioto Township on in terms of computer security. And of course, you know, the email is public record, so anybody can see it. But you know, I'm a very busy guy, I have a very busy job, but the next morning I thought it was very important that I described to Will what I'd seen and what I'd done about it. So, I mean, yeah, I would do the same today, tomorrow, and I would keep doing the same over and over again, because I think it's.
And you mentioned in that email, didn't you, what happened, what you saw Jillian trying to do the night before?
Yes, and I took screenshots as well to try and emphasize in the email the differences between the two different email clients, the desktop client and the web-based client.
Your Honor, may I approach with exhibit A?
Yes.
I've provided a copy to the prosecutor as well. Mr. Hubert, if you could take a look at exhibit A. And can you tell me if you recognize what exhibit A is?
Yes, the email that I sent to us.
And you see that the from and the to on the page? That's the highlight that was added. Do you see that? It says from Ian Hubert. Do you see that?
From me.
Okay. And do you recall sending this email to Mr. Hathaway that morning of November 16th?
I do.
And that's what you just described in your testimony?
Yes.
And I'd like to, at this point, move exhibit A into evidence, Your Honor.
Any objection or what here?
Yes, Your Honor, the people object to the admission of exhibit A. As defense counsel stated, she did add the highlighting on the from and to. There's also other alterations there have been things blacked out of this exhibit. It's not a fair and accurate copy of the original email. Further emphasis has been added later in the email with additional highlighting. So I'm objecting as I do not believe this is a fair and accurate.
What's
copy.
been blacked out? The screen?
The Outlook screenshots, Your Honor. There was actual content in those and they've been blocked out now. So I am objecting because I do not believe this is a fair and accurate copy of the email as originally submitted. Furthermore,
Your Honor, oh, sorry, but
I double check, I want to make sure one other thing, that is, those are the bases for the adoption.
Your Honor, I think that would go to the weight of the evidence. Obviously, things get blacked out on exhibits because they contain private information.
Why is that blacked out? I don't.
I can ask the witness if you would let me, but I'll tell you from why it's blacked out. I'll tell you, it's his emails, personal email, I believe, or Mr. Hathaway's. I didn't want to put Mr. Hathaway's emails. And
Mr. Hathaway's email?
can I ask the witness?
Hubert's email.
I'll ask the witness. Because I don't remember whose emails it was, honestly.
Hold on a second, sir, please.
I believe it's either I know it's either Mr. Hathaway's email or Mr. Hubert's email or some other email, somebody else's email, some private person's email. I didn't want to show that to the world because it's not relevant. What's relevant is in the highlighted portions I wanted to ask him about. And it's relevant not only for his testimony, but also Mr. Hathaway's testimony, because I want to ask him about it as well. And it's not being offered for the truth either. I don't know if there's a
What's not being offered for the truth?
This document's not being offered for the truth. It's being offered for the fact that he sent this email and he provided this information to Mr. Hathaway. That's relevant to my cross-examination of Mr. Hathaway.
Well, then why do I need an exhibit of that?
Because I want
That he sent an email.
I want to have a documentation that he sent the email and that he told Mr. Hathaway that what the problem was prior to Mr. Hathaway going to the sheriff and bringing a case and pressing charges against my client. He knew that this was a computer mishap because he left his Outlook on.
I don't know what's blacked out.
I have an unblacked out copy, I believe. I know the prosecutor has it. She has.
Well, I don't have it. I mean, her objection is that what you've given me as exhibit is blacked out.
Why is, that's not a legal objection unless I don't understand the legal
Are you
objection.
really gonna argue that for me?
No, I'm not going to argue anything with you on that.
Why don't you just answer my darn question?
I will.
What is blacked out?
It's,
Is there a copy of what's blacked out that the court can see?
I'll have to find it. It'll take me a minute, Your Honor. I don't have it now, but I won't introduce it at this point. That's fine. I'll hold off on it. In any event, you sent the email. Do you remember telling Mr. Hathaway that the bigger issue last night was that Jillian was trying to access her email
Your Honor,
to get into the,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna object. If it's not admitted as exhibit, and we're gonna read from it, I don't know that that would be proper. It hasn't been admitted as an exhibit, so asking him if he recalls sending the email, totally fine. We've been through that and all of these different things, but now defense is gonna basically just read from the exhibit and introduce it through the form of testimony without getting a complete, fair and accurate copy to the court consideration.
Your Honor, there's nothing inaccurate about this document, and I'm happy to provide you unredacted after I have a break and get it from my assistant. I'll provide that to you. But I can certainly ask a witness, I believe, did he say these things in an email? And why did he do that? And then I can ask Mr. Hathaway, was he aware of this email before he went to the police? That's what I'm trying to get to, Your Honor, because I think it goes directly to his credibility.
As to whose credibility?
As to Mr. Hathaway's credibility, he's going to be testifying. He's the alleged victim in this matter. And the fact that a computer
How
expert,
long will it take you to get a copy of this?
not long, Your Honor.
I can look at.
If you give me 5 minutes, I'll be able to get it.
Or to stand in recess. Retake the stand, please.
Your Honor, may I hand him a copy of the exhibit?
Well,
Or should I wait?
wait. Second. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So in discussing defense proposed exhibit. I now am looking at the portions which are redacted, and I think they don't have any, Ms. Lundy, they don't have any relevance to this proceeding.
I don't think so, and I noticed that the There's a phone number at the very top of the first page, which had previously been redacted, which is now unredacted. The people do appreciate the removing of the highlighting, but I don't think that the other portions,
The phone number,
the very, very top of the first page.
oh, understood.
Yes, and this does appear though to be a more accurate, fair and accurate copy of the email. The copy of the email that I have is slightly different in that it doesn't contain the forwarding information at the top, nor that phone number. But below that, it does appear to be the same.
But now that the redactions are gone, and I can understand in looking at the area why that information may have been redacted. So I will accept as defendant's exhibit A, the redacted one. The highlights for the purposes of these proceedings, I'm going to allow the highlights. I can disregard highlights.
Your Honor.
So exhibit A is admitted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Question.
Yes. Mr. Hubert, there come a time where you learned, there came a time where you learned that something had got sent from Mr. Hathaway's email account on November 15th, around the same time that Jillian Carey was trying to start the meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, you learned the next day. And then you attended a board meeting. When I say board meeting, I mean a meeting of the Board of Trustees of Scioto Township on the date of April the 9th of 2024. Do you recall that? On this one, didn't you do a demonstration for the Board of Trustees? Do you recall doing that?
Yes, I did.
Do you think that might have been on April the 9th of 2024?
Sounds right.
Okay. And why did you do, what demonstration? First of all, why did you do a demonstration? What was the purpose of the demonstration?
Yeah. Okay, so when you use the Outlook desktop client, not the web-based client, but the one that we talked about, you can't log in from and everything. If you send an email or anything, and you don't give the computer sufficient time to make a connection to whatever server is going to actually send a message.
I'm sorry, I'm going to object just to non-responsive, and I'm not sure what the relevance is of a presentation given in April of 2024 to events that are alleged to have happened.
Give me a preface to the.
Yes, Your Honor. The issue in this case, I think the actual issue in this case is whether or not the email in question, the email forwarding question was done intentionally by Miss Carey, which is one of the elements of the crime. It has to be done willfully and maliciously. And I believe that Mr. Hubert's demonstration showed the board and explains how this was done programmatically, that email was sent by the Outlook itself rather than by Miss Carey intentionally doing so. So it goes right to the heart.
Was it specifically regarding this email?
He was replicating it in his,
here.
it's because of this email, Your Honor, but he's replicating what he believes could have occurred, and he's going to describe what he did for the board.
What purpose though is he doing that demonstration?
To demonstrate to the board that this was a problem caused by Mr. Hathaway leaving his Outlook signed in, and the fact that it very likely could have been stuck in his outbox because of the reasons that Mr. Hubert just explained, that either he turned off his device before
But does he
item was sent.
know?
I'm sorry?
There's an email that's forwarded.
Yes, and that's the crime in this case that's alleged.
I understand.
Yep.
So is he testifying as to what occurred in this particular case or a hypothesis?
He's a hypothesis, and I can qualify him as an expert.
I'm not gonna,
I can,
I mean, you'd have to do that at some point.
sure, I could do that. Okay.
I mean, but I don't know that I take testimonies to the ultimate question.
Oh, okay. I believe that Mr. Parvis or Detective Parvis is going to testify and give his opinion as to the ultimate question in this case.
Okay.
So I would like to have him be able to describe what he did to replicate,
He being whom?
Mr. Hubert, to replicate what he believes happened with Miss Carey. And how the forward happened. Or could have happened.
There's gonna be a whole lot that's gotta go behind that. And I don't know that I have any of that that's gonna form the basis for which you could give the court that opinion.
So can I proffer what his testimony would be? Or do you just,
But I don't, if you're saying he did something that replicated this, then I don't have testimony as to what precisely he did.
that's what I was gonna ask. If the court will allow me.
Ms. Long,
Your Honor, as I understand the proffer that's been given to the court from defense counsel, it's that this person is going to offer a hypothesis as to the ultimate question based on what I'm sure would be many questions to lead to that ultimate question. That is absolutely within the purview of an expert witness. This witness has not been qualified as an expert witness by either myself nor defense counsel. We don't have a copy of his CV. We don't have a copy of any information about different times he may have been qualified as an expert witness. I do not believe this is a proper line of questioning for a lay witness.
I can lay a foundation for his expertise, Your Honor.
yeah, but they have to have that information prior to.
This wasn't my witness, though, Your Honor. This is a cross-examination.
Yeah, but you're seeking to try to qualify whether it be your witness or their witness, this witness is an expert.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So but without getting into the demonstration you did for the board, can you describe to the court how this, in your view, well, I'll move on, Your Honor. Based on everything that you saw on the night of November 15th of 2023, do you have any indication that Jillian Carey intentionally forwarded an email from Mr. Hathaway's account?
Objection calls for the ultimate question.
I'm asking if he has any observations.
And he didn't say observation, he said opinion.
Opinion.
I'm sorry, I don't think I said opinion, but I'll rephrase it if I did. Did you have any observations that lead you to believe one way or the other whether Jillian Carey intentionally sent this forward?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You said something in your direct. You said that we were on our back foot trying to get the meeting going. What did you mean by that? I just never heard that expression.
Back foot, it
Yeah.
means I'm under a lot of stress and feeling like I'm behind with where I want to be in getting the public meeting set up. We've had a number of the public meetings where things go wrong. You don't have audio, you don't have video, you're struggling to get a two-factor. The sooner you can have it ready, the better. And that's why I generally try to get there early. So just general stress of, hosting.
Sir, what your accent is?
It's British,
You're British.
yeah.
Okay, and that would be a common British phrase of being on one's back foot.
Is that right?
Well,
That's why I had to ask.
very good British friend who says the same thing. So
Thank you.
all right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I understood what you meant. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
in a sense, yes.
No further questions.
All right. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Hubert, you recall testifying about Chris Bailey being an IT person for Scioto Township? Do you know someone by the name of Julio Barros?
Have had no dealings with, I believe he was a replacement. for Chris Bailey.
You've had no dealings with Julio? You mentioned that you go into the same email account that the defendant has access to get a two-factor authentication code for Zoom, right?
The RAC chair account, yes.
You removed Will Hathaway's profile from the laptop in question, right? The email in Defense Exhibit A, you sent it, or it was received or sent around 8:59 a.m. on November 16th, correct?
Yes.
And you recall testifying that you got a call about an email having been forwarded around 4 o'clock that day, right?
Looked at my records, it was 4, and I've forgotten already, but I think it was on the later side of 4, but yes, from a Detective Phillips.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right, you may step down. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, I know defense said they had no witnesses. I'm not sure if they intend to recall Mr. Hubert as an expert in their case.
No, Your Honor.
No, all right.
And may this witness be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Witness is excused. You're all set, sir. Thank you.
Back to work, thank you.
All right.
On your front foot.
What is? I'll take it. All right. Oh, your next witness.
Will Hathaway?
Bless you.
Sir, please come forward to be sworn.
When you take a seat, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear in the firm the testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? State and spell your first and last name for the record.
Will Hathaway, WILLHATHAWAY.
All right, before you begin questioning, Mr. Hathaway, where'd you go to high school?
I went to Pioneer.
And you graduated in 1979.
I did.
Council approach. Record to reflect, we've had a bench conference. My understanding is there's no objection. I know of Mr. Hathaway. I think we attended high school together. That would have been many moons ago. I don't recall, haven't seen him in the interim much at all. And that knowledge of Mr. Hathaway would in no way affect my ability to judge his testimony. So my understanding is there's no objection from council.
No objection, Your Honor.
There's no objection from the people. We have no
You
concerns
may
about that.
proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Can you tell the court how you are involved with Scioto Township government, or how we were?
I did supervisor of Scioto Township. And served as a supervisor until the end of my term, November 2022.
Do you know somebody by the name of Jillian Carey? Do you see the person you know to be Jillian Carey in the courtroom?
I do.
Can you tell me where that person is sitting and what they are wearing?
I'll stipulate that information. Your Honor.
All right. Record shall so reflect.
Do you recall the date of November the 15th, 2023?
Yes.
Can you tell the court where you were that day, starting in probably the morning time, what your day was like that day?
Well, as usual, I started working at home, then working at Township Hall.
Where's the township hall?
Looking at Z Road.
And that's in Scioto Township, Washtenaw County,
Yes.
state of Michigan? Do you remember about what time you got to the township hall?
On that day, I am not sure, usually sometime around 10:30 maybe.
What did you do when you got there?
Usually I would work at my computer, so often there were meetings with people. Um, I'm not sure of my exact itinerary that day. I do know because I remember that I left shortly after 5 o'clock because I had a meeting in Arbor, the Washington County Historical Society's board, which I served.
At any time in the preceding few days, had you used a computer that was in the meeting room at that township hall?
Yes, I used the shared meeting hall laptop computer on Monday, the 13th, because at noon, development authority, and the supervisor, my staff on the board of the downtown development authority. And that day, I realized there's a particular issue with posting of the agenda for that meeting. That day, I was there at the office earlier, and around 9 o'clock, I began working on the problem of the lack of a posted agenda for the DDA meeting. Part of the problem with that, of course, is that on the posted agenda is the Zoom link through which people are able to participate remotely.
And then you use that laptop, that shared laptop that's in the meeting space. Is that correct? Yes. Do you recall how you logged on to that?
The instructions for logging on are taped to the desk where the computer is located. And I would follow whatever the procedures are to sort of turn it on, log on to the computer. That day it was particularly stressful because we were trying to problem solve this lack of Zoom link and set that up so that the people could participate, the public could have access to the meeting.
Did you use Outlook or some sort of email program when you were using the computer that day on that computer?
Well, yes, in order to use Zoom, is the platform used for connecting remotely. You have to use a two-factor authentication procedure, and that requires you to get a code sent and received on your email.
So 11/13 the Monday, you use this computer and then you use it to set up the meeting for the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority. So this is the agenda, post the agenda with the Zoom link.
Well, we were trying to solve that problem.
Sure.
It was chaotic, and we were still trying to solve that problem when the meeting began.
I see.
So I was trying to attend the meeting and working on the computer at the same time, so we could try and solve that problem. Finally solved it, but not until 20, 30 minutes into the meeting.
Let's fast forward to the 15th, back to that date. Did you use the laptop, the shared computer, I should say, not the laptop, the shared computer to send or receive emails on that date?
15?
On the 15th, did you use it?
No, the only time I ever used that computer in the meeting hall is when I was trying to start a meeting. And ordinarily, I'm not the person who's trying to start a meeting, it's somebody else.
Do you recall receiving an email on November 15th in reply to an email that came from your account?
I think you're referring to the email that was forwarded from my account. I do remember receiving a reply to that. That was until late that evening after I returned to my home from the Washington Historical Society meeting. Probably after 10 o'clock.
Is when you saw the email?
That's when I looked at my Zach Township meeting again.
All right. And Your Honor, I do have for the court, I have one for the witness and one for the court, the People's Proposed Exhibit 1. Defense already has a copy as well. May I approach?
Yes, you may.
May I approach your bench to give you a copy?
Yes.
Down until it's ready.
Mr. Hathaway, I've placed in front of you what's been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 1. What do you recognize this to be?
This appears to be, you know, that I received from Jessica Flintoff, the township clerk, in response to the email that she had received forwarded from my email account earlier that evening.
And is this a fair and accurate copy of the email, if you go through it as you recall receiving it?
Your Honor, we'll stipulate to the introduction of.
Thank you. Different ones admitted. Go ahead.
Mr. Hathaway, I have a couple of questions for you about this exhibit, so we're going to look at this together. On the first page, can you tell the court in the middle of the page at what time it says the email was from Will Hathaway to Jessica Flintoff?
It was November 15th, 2023 at 6:08 PM.
Where were you at about 6:08 PM on this date?
I was still at the Washtenaw County Historical Society meeting, and
Washtenaw County or Ann Arbor Historical Society?
well, it's located in Ann Arbor. It's the County Historical Society. It meets in person at the museum on Main Street, corner of Beeks and Main Street.
You were not using the shared Scioto Township computer?
No, the Sheraton Township computer stays in the meeting hall. That's where it lives.
And you weren't present for the road commission meeting that was going to start there at 6:30 that night?
The Roads Advisory Committee.
That's right. I'm so sorry. I misspoke.
That's right. No, I was not present for that. I couldn't be in two places at the same time.
Now, as, excuse me, this appears to be an email chain. Would you say that's a fair?
Yeah, it's a thread of emails that was forwarded from my email account to Jessica Flintoff, and it's a thread of emails from 2022.
All right. So if we flip to the very last page, it doesn't have much on it, just a couple lines, correct? The very top of the very last page, I think there's just.
The last email.
Record, is that page 5?
I think it would be.
Right.
So we're going to look at page 4. Yes. So at the bottom of this page, can you describe what is in this message, which appears to be the first in the chain?
Yeah, so this is a message from Jessica to me and then Scioto Township Treasurer Homer in our capacities as members of the election commission regarding a meeting on July 11th. And it is her transmitting the meeting packet for that meeting. That was at 6:56 AM on Monday, July 11th.
And then did you reply to that?
Yes, I did. I replied at 7:19 AM and said, in my message, Jessica, the resolution appointing the absentee vote board and election inspectors does not have the attached list of appointments. We'll need that in order to approve the appointments.
And this is all in July of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And then does it appear that Ms. Flintoff replied to you?
Yes, she did. She wrote back. Yeah, I have that. I don't publish the names because some will keep changing up until election day.
Then if we go to page 3, we're kind of getting later in time, correct, as we come forward in this document?
Right.
Who did you send this email chain to?
So at 8:16 AM, I wrote to Mike Homier and
In what capacity was Mike Homier acting at that time?
home year served as one of Saddle Township's attorneys. He works for the law firm of Foster Swift.
And I don't want to ask you about your communications with an attorney that represented you necessarily, but were you seeking his advice?
Yes, I was seeking his advice. That I was trying to grapple with making appointments without information about who was being appointed.
The specific names of the individuals to be appointed?
Any information, yeah.
Any information. Did you include anybody on this email except for Mr. Homier? Did he reply to you?
Yes.
Did he provide you legal advice or a legal advice of some kind?
Yes. Lengthy citations of sort of the applicable law and counseled me a little bit in terms of situation.
After you received that, did you reply back to him?
I asked, yes, I wrote back to him and asked if he was available for the 10 o'clock meeting,
To have him be present to advise everyone?
just in case.
Okay.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I knew that well, there were two things I knew that Treasurer Palmer was not going to attend that meeting. And so meeting could still go forward with Clerk Flintoff and myself, except if I did not vote to approve the appointments, they would not occur. And that could cause a real problem in terms of the election. I'm concerned about that.
As we go up one more, do you then see this as what was forwarded on that November 15th date?
Yes.
Okay.
So the final message in that thread was my message to my co-mayor asking if he could be at the 10 a.m.
And you did not send that exchange that you had with Mr. Homier to Jessica Flintoff?
No, I did not.
What is significant about this having been forwarded to Jessica Flintoff?
I mean, why? I'm not sure I understand the better.
Sure. Let me ask a better question. When did you become aware that this email had gone to Jessica Flintoff?
I learned of it when I looked at my South Township email around 10 on the 15th of November 2023.
What was your reaction?
I was completely surprised and trying to make sense out of it, but also responding to Jessica's email to me, in which she asked for an explanation.
At this time, were you aware of the relationship between Jessica Flintoff and the defendant, Jillian Carey?
I was aware that the two of them were, I guess, they are sort of political allies. I don't know of any relationship really beyond that.
Professional political relationship is what you were aware of?
Yes.
When this message was sent to Jessica Flintoff and you became aware of that, what did you do next?
Well, that evening, I wrote back immediately to Clerk Flintoff. I responded to her email. I explained that I had no one, it was a mystery to me how this had happened, that I hadn't sent it and I hadn't even been on my computer at the time it was apparently sent. So it was a puzzle. More information began to come the next day. early next morning, I reached out to the township's IT director,
Who's that at the time?
Chris Bailey, and explained to him that this had happened. He was not copying any of the emails that evening. And it was so late when this was sort of unfolding, and I didn't start reaching out to people at that time. But I reached out to Chris the next.
Do you need some water?
Yeah.
Do you have any water? We normally have some. I'm so sorry that we don't.
Yeah.
Sorry. Power through. Other person I reached out to was Glenn Hominger. I wanted to notify him because apparently this communication between the two of us, which I assumed was attorney-client privilege communication, had now been shared out quite widely. And I'm not sure of the implications, but I thought he should be aware. It was shortly after I sent those two communications that I received an email from Ian Huber. And that helped me to understand more about how this had happened.
In 2022, when you were having this email exchange, what I'll call the original email exchange with Mr. Homier after speaking with Jessica Flintoff, was Julian Carey a part of Scioto Township local government?
At that time, Jillian was serving on an advisory committee, I believe, and she was running for office in a special election to be held in August.
So she was not a member of, I'll call the board, or
She was not on the board of trustees at that point.
Okay.
She did win the special election in August of office in November.
of 2022. On November the 16th, after reviewing your emails, speaking with Chris, speaking with Ian, what did you do?
Let's see. So later on November 15th.
How about the 16th is the date?
16th,
Yes.
I met with Chris. He was trying to figure out what had happened and met with him actually in the meeting hall to show me shared computer trying to sort of puzzle through and
So he was manipulating the computer, touching the computer, clicking things on it, things like that.
Your Honor, I'm going to check this till we didn't.
Okay.
What was he doing with the computer?
I think he, well.
If you're not sure, you don't have to guess.
I'm not sure at this
Okay.
point.
That's totally fine.
To recall that had the computer, he showed me some things that he had discovered, shared with me, for example, that not only was my email open on the computer, but two other people's emails were also open on the shared laptop computer.
Did you at some point contact law enforcement?
Not until at the end of the day, after talking with Billy further, after talking with the township manager, Joyce Parker, I concluded that it made sense to report this to the sheriff's office.
They use them interchangeably as well, so it's completely fine. May I just have one moment, Your Honor?
Right.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Hathaway. Now, you served as the Scioto Township Supervisor for what time period?
I've been in November 2020. I served from then until November 2024.
And you were the supervisor of Scioto Township at the time this incident happened on November the 15th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
And can you describe your relationship with Jillian Carey, my client, in November of 2023?
At that time, Julian was serving as a trustee. On the board of trustees. And so we worked together in that capacity.
Okay. And were you friends?
I wouldn't say that we were friends. I would say that I tried to maintain a collegial relationship with Jillian.
Well, would you say that there was animosity between the two of you? Did you believe that? I'm not asking you to tell me what was in Jillian's mind, but
Sure. I think the relationship, the professional relationship, was somewhat adversarial.
Okay.
Which sort of understandable. Jillian and I ran against each other for the office of supervisor in 2020.
understood. So did you consider her a political rival of yours?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay. And in fact, she was a longtime political rival. You just pointed out it went back to 2020 when she ran for supervisor. And you defeated her in that race, correct?
Correct.
And she ran for supervisor again last year, correct?
Correct.
And you were heavily involved in backing her opposition in that election in 2024. Is that correct?
Objection, relevance.
Goes to bias.
I'm sorry. So
Yeah. So you were heavily
Yes,
invested.
answer.
Yes.
You were heavily invested, at least financially, in
I.
that. Hold on, let me finish the question. Sorry. I'll try to, by the way, Mr. Hathaway, I'll try to just let you finish before I talk. And if I don't, the judge will be mad at me, and so will the prosecutor. And if I
Ask
could do
your
this,
question.
Sam, I would appreciate it. So you heavily backed her opposition. Do you know someone named John Boyle?
I donated to his campaign, yes.
Okay, but you did more than just donate to his campaign, didn't you? Do you know what Fix SIO is? Do you know what that political action committee is? Okay, and Fix SIO, what was an entity that was created? Was it created in 2024? Do you recall?
Yes.
And do you know who created Fix SIO?
I know people who are involved.
Okay, and isn't it fair to say that you were the majority? You contributed the most money to this Fix SIO entity. Is that fair?
I think that's fair to say.
So you've spent, donated $6,000 of your own money. Is that fair?
That's correct.
And you also spent another $5,037.50 on the web design. Is that fair? Around that. Okay. So you got about $11,000 of your own money invested in essentially defeating Jillian Carey. Is that fair?
Well, it was more complicated. There were a number of other candidates we were opposing.
Right, but they were all in the SIO township slate, or were they for other offices?
We're all running for office inside.
Okay, and so the highest position that you can run for in SIO township is supervisor. Is that right?
I guess that's debatable whether it's the highest position.
In any event, you opposed her run for supervisor, correct?
I opposed her candidacy.
Yes. Thank you. Now let's talk about, and by the way, Jillian Carey won. She won. She's now the supervisor of SIO Township, correct? Now let's talk about the evening of November 15th of 2023. At time we both know now your email sent out something, right? The forwarded email, correct? So I just want to,
An email was sent from
right? And you didn't send it, as far as you know, correct? you weren't at the township hall. You've already testified to that, correct? You weren't there when,
6:08.
okay, but it sounds like from your direct testimony, you have a lot of experience with the chaos of trying to start a Zoom meeting. Is that fair to say?
It's not always chaos. It was at the beginning that Monday, yes.
But you can understand how somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience setting up Zoom meetings might be feeling stressed, as you mentioned, to try to get it started, correct?
I suppose I can understand how someone might feel stressed in that circumstance, yes.
And now you received an email. Well, let me back up. You found out, you said around 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. on November 15th, 2023, when you checked your email. And when I talk about your email, I just want to make this clear. I'm only talking about one email. I don't know what other emails you have. I'm talking about your Scioto Township.
Official Scioto Township email.
Correct. And you learned around 10 o'clock by checking that email that Jessica Flintoff had received something that the Mike Homier emails that we talked about, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded to her that night in an email where you said, it's a mystery to me how this happened, correct?
That was part of what I said.
Have you gone back and looked at that email?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and you used the word mystery to me, didn't you? The word mystery, did you?
I did it at that time. Yeah.
Okay, and then and you know that Mr. Huber was present at least at some point at the meeting. He was the night before the evening of November 15th. You know that Ian Hubert is the co-chair, isn't he, or he was, of the Road Advisory Committee?
At that time, here, the Road Advisory Committee, and serving as co-chair,
Thank you.
vice chair. Sure.
And did he send you, he sent you an email in the morning
Yeah,
actually, Governor, did I move Exhibit A into evidence?
I admitted it.
Yeah, I think you did. I just wanted to make sure. All right, if I can approach. Mr. Hathaway, I've given you a copy of Defense Exhibit A. And when you look at Defense Exhibit A, can you see the time? I'll say for the record and for your edification that the highlights are added just to make it easier for you to find what I'm going to ask you about. So look at the first highlighted portion of Exhibit A. Do you see the from line? Who's the email from?
From Ian Hubert.
And when was it sent?
I guess it's a little bit- So, almost back.
Okay, and it was sent to you, correct?
Yes,
And it looks like also to Jillian Carey, correct?
yes,
All right, and you've read this email, correct?
I have.
Okay, I want to direct your attention to the second page, the highlighted portion. And Mr. Huber wrote in this email, the bigger issue last night was that Jillian was trying to access her email to get a Zoom two-factor authentication email. Do you see that? Sorry, is that yes?
Yes.
You can't say, you have to say yes or no.
Yes.
And that's something that you just testified in your direct that you did when you wanted to start a Zoom. You had to get that two-factor authentication from your email, correct?
Correct.
And then, so he said the bigger issue is that Jillian was trying to get that authentication. And then if you look at this, the part below it, he writes, she basically said it keeps launching Will's email account, which it was. The problem here is that you're using a publicly accessible computer and somebody has set up Outlook client to access your email. See that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So Mr. Huber is telling you that that was a problem the previous night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And right. And Mr. Bailey, you talked about Chris Bailey, he also weighed in on what happened. He wrote his own memo called Findings on the Incident of Email Being Forwarded to Will Hathaway's Account Without His Knowledge. Do you recall that?
I do.
Your Honor, I have what's been marked defendant's exhibit B. I provided to prosecutor. May I approach?
Exhibit B. Yes, you may.
Thank you. Mr. Hathaway, if you could look at that document and tell me if you recognize it. What is that document?
Here, in response to a request from Township Manager Arbor, she asked him to summarize what he found at that point. In his investigation of the forward email, so she had something in writing.
Okay. And then, do you see in paragraph, it looks like on the first page, about 6 paragraphs down, just before the bottom, the highlighted portion, do you see how Mr. Bailey in his memo, and by the way, Your Honor, I'd asked him to move this exhibit into evidence.
Response.
May I have board, dear?
You may.
Did you write this document, sir?
No.
Thank you. Your Honor, I object as to hearsay.
It's not being offered for the truth, Your Honor. It's being offered for the fact that he received this email and he, despite Mr. Bailey saying the problem was the fact that he had this email on a publicly shared computer was the cause of the problem. And
Why wouldn't that be being offered for the truth of the matter? That's precisely.
because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what is in here. It matters that he knew these facts and then he continued to
What fact?
He knew that his own IT director told him the problem here is that you have your Outlook on a publicly used and shared laptop. That's the problem, not something that my client did. Yet he still persisted in going
But
to the
you're
sheriff.
offering that statement for the truth of the matter.
I'm not, because I'm not
You're
offering
offering it as for his state of
his
mind
state of mind.
as to what he did.
Yeah, the fact that,
What did he do then?
well, I'm gonna ask him.
Proffer to me
Yes,
what he did if you're offering it as his state of mind.
Yeah.
Because this is classic hearsay.
yes. What he did was he persisted in with the prosecution of my client. He continued to say he wanted her charged. He wanted her prosecuted when his own IT director told him that the problem was nothing that my client did. The problem had to do with him.
That's so. I'm going to sustain the objection.
All right.
That's so hearsay. That has nothing to do with his state of mind. Further, counsel,
That's fine.
he can give testimony or give information to the police. It's not really his prosecution at some
Okay. I'll move on, Your Honor.
technical thing.
I'll move on. Can I collect
Go
the
ahead.
exhibit? Thank you. But in any event, Mr. Bailey raised the issue of you having your Microsoft Outlook client installed on the shared laptop. You raised that as an issue, correct?
Object as to hearsay as to what Mr. Bailey.
Sustained.
Well, you know what he did, Mr. Bailey did after. Do you know what happened? Let me ask you. Do you know what happened to the laptop that was being used on November 15th, 2023?
I know that the day after this all came out, it was replaced. It was also investigated both by Detective Parmas and subsequently by others. But it was immediately replaced, and Chris Bailey tried to rectify the security problems that had existed with the prior shared laptop.
Thank you. Now, on November the 16th of 2023 at about 4 p.m., did you go to the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, next door to Township Hall.
And you went there because you thought that maybe a crime happened. Isn't that fair?
I went there because I felt like, it could have been a crime, I suppose, but, it seemed like a situation that merited investigation, and I felt like the sheriff's department was a better, conduct that investigation.
Okay. But you told the sheriff, and by the way, you spoke with someone named Deputy Alex Phillips, is that correct?
But yeah, Deputy Phillips was the person that.
And you told Deputy Alex Phillips that you believe that the email was intentionally sent for political reasons. Didn't you tell him that?
I told him that, to me, it seemed as if it had been intentionally sent. I think he asked questions, why would someone?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I move the strike. I asked you a yes or no question, whether you said that. If you didn't say that it was sent for political reasons, did you say it was sent for political reasons or not?
Well, I'm trying to, I guess, answer your question. I'm not sure that that's exactly what I said.
Okay. Did you ever communicate, whether it was in those exact words, did you ever communicate that you thought that Jillian Carey intentionally forwarded that email for political reasons? Did you ever say that? Communicate that in any way, in whatever words?
You're gonna have to ask the question, counsel, and let the witness answer, because every time he starts, you interrupt him.
I'm sorry.
Ask your question.
Okay. I'll ask it again. Regardless of the words you used, did you communicate the idea to Deputy Phillips on November 16th at 4 p.m. 2023? Did you communicate to him that you believed that Jillian Carey intentionally sent the email?
It's difficult to remember exactly, but I think so. I think I did convey that it seemed to me.
Sorry, Your Honor, motion to strike. It's a yes or no question.
I know, but it's not quite a yes or no.
All right, I'll withdraw. I'll let him
No,
finish.
I'm gonna let the witness answer.
Okay.
Because you don't like what his response might be.
No, okay.
You don't just get to stop it. Mr. Hathaway, go ahead with what your response was.
Well, I guess I'm trying to say it's a little hard, but I think I did say to Deputy Phillips that it seemed to me that it was an intentional action.
Okay, and then the second part of that is, did you ever tell him that you thought it was politically motivated?
I think I probably did.
Okay, thank you. And you went to the police that evening after you had already received the email from Ian Hubert, is that correct?
Yes, I received the warning.
Did you tell any members of the board of Scioto Township prior to going to report this to the sheriffs on November 16th of 2023? Did you tell any board members that you were going to go do that?
I may have conferred with some board members and said that I was thinking about it.
Okay. Do you know Kathy Noel?
I think no.
Yes. And at the time, was she a trustee for Scioto Township? And do you recall having a conversation on November 20th of 2023 with Miss Noel where you told her that you didn't want to see anyone get charged with a crime as a result of this incident?
That was not my intent when I went to the sheriff's office.
And did you also tell her, Miss Noel, that you went to the sheriff's office to find out what happened with your computer?
I thought it should be investigated.
Do you remember speaking with, let me back up. Isn't it true that on December 17th of 2023, you told Deputy Phillips that you believe Jillian Carey forwarded the email to Jessica Flintoff to cause tension and politically hurt you? Did you say that?
Say that again.
Did you tell Deputy Phillips in December of 2023 that you believe that Jillian Carey forwarded the email to Jessica Flintoff to cause tension and politically hurt you?
I remember saying something about causing tension, but I think I did say that it was at that time, this was a month later, that I thought she was doing, it was done with the intent to somehow cause individual harm.
You don't remember saying causing tension. You don't remember the word tension or that concept being used? Okay. And do you remember Deputy Phillips telling you that it falls on you whether or not she will be prosecuted?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained,
It's not being offered for the truth, Your Honor.
sustained.
Okay. You knew by talking with Deputy Phillips, you knew that based on what he told you, that it was your decision whether or not to press charges essentially against Ms. Carey. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to form and foundation. That's a misstatement of the criminal procedure in the state of Michigan. Because there's
Your Honor-
two parts to that question. The first part is what Deputy Phillips said, just hearsay, and then the second part of it is how we process charges.
So what's the purpose of this line? Question.
The purpose is that he was told basically that it fell on him as to whether he wanted to pursue the case. And if he wasn't interested, then it wouldn't go forward. He was told that. I think it goes to his.
That matter.
It matters because it shows that he was intent on prosecuting my client. It shows his motive. It shows his bias.
It doesn't. How does it show that?
Your Honor, if you overrule my objection, you could just overrule it or sustain it. I mean,
No, you answer my question. That's how this works, counsel. You
That's
don't
fine.
run this court.
That's fine. Fine.
I'm gonna give you a chance. We've been through this before with you about who runs the courtroom and how it works.
I understand.
Court stands in recess. Sit down.
And this chain that you sent was on July 11th of 2022. Do you see that on People's One in the middle of the front page?
Yes.
Okay, so on that day, that was July of 2022. Was there an election that was going to be coming up in the fall of 2022?
It was a special election in, I believe, August
Okay,
2022.
was that for the fire
No.
funding?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think in August 2022, the only thing on the ballot was a race for an open trustee seat.
Okay, so there was a need for you as supervisor to appoint election workers or election officials. Is that true?
Well, not as supervisor per se, but as a member of the election commission, the three members of the three commissioners, the treasurer and supervisor, had that responsibility.
Okay, and there was a debate between you and Ms. Flintoff, the clerk, as to whether or not to publish the names and addresses of the workers. Was that one of the issues that you were emailing about?
Well, yes, that was a question, that was part of the question, that morning, and that was.
Thank you. And then in 2023, there was another election that was going to be held, I think in November of 2023. Do you recall that? Sorry, not an election. I guess it was a vote on a funding for the fire department? Do you recall that?
Yeah, I think that's when the fire department came up.
Okay. And was that vote going to occur in November of 2023, if you recall? If you know, if you don't, it's not.
I think it's correct. It's embarrassing. But I can't tell you whether it was August or it must have been November because we were meeting in August. That would have been too late to be meeting during August.
Okay. And shortly before this incident happened, in the fall of 2023, leading up to this election, or sorry, this I guess it's an election, regarding the vote on the funding of the fire department. In this time frame, did you come to learn of an email that the clerk Jessica Flintoff sent on August 5th, 2023 to 4 members of the board?
Didn't learn of that.
Okay.
And that help me to understand the context for the email that was forwarded from my.
And so what the email that I'm talking about on August 5th, 2023, do you recall reading in the email that Jessica Flintoff warned or told the other members of the board that you might raise the same issue again, or that issue might come up regarding publishing the names and addresses of the election workers?
I'm gonna object as to hearsay.
I'll overrule it. Go ahead, you can answer.
Okay, so your question is, was I aware of what Clerk Flintoff?
Yeah, I mean, you read the email, right?
Yes, I have now read the email. I heard of the email and I was told of the exchange before I actually saw the email. I was not a recipient of the email at the time that it was sent in August.
When did you learn that the gist of the email in 2023? Was it prior to November 15th, 2020?
At this point, I can't tell you exactly when I learned of it.
Okay,
I didn't see it until much later.
all right. Well, the election in 2023, hadn't that already occurred on November the 7th of 2023, the election regarding the funding?
The fire.
Yeah.
Special assessment election would have already occurred, I believe.
Thank you. Now, after seeing that or learning of that email, you don't know when you did, but when you learned that Ms. Flintoff had sent an email saying that the issue regarding publishing the names could come up again, did you consider forwarding the email from Mr. Homier to Jessica Flintoff? Did you think about doing it?
Did she raise this?
Yeah.
Did I think of forwarding it? No.
You didn't consider forwarding the email that in question, the July 11, 2022?
No. When I learned that Flintoff had brought up this issue again from 2022, I was surprised. I thought that was behind us. I had no interest in adding anything more to that researching content.
Did you ever search any of your boxes on your Outlook? I'm talking again about the Scioto Township email that you had. Did you ever look through, let's say, either your send box or your inbox to find that July 11, 2022 email that's at issue in this case? Did you ever look for it prior to November 15th, 2023?
No, not until after this happened. And then I did go back and try and trace my steps back. Yes, I hadn't really looked at that. When I did see it again, I was sort of like, seemed like history.
So would you agree with this statement that you neither looked for that email nor considered sending the email?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Before then, I didn't consider sending it.
Who is Steve Ranzini? Do you know who that is?
He's a banker, isn't he? In Arbor.
I'm just asking you, do you know Steve Ranzini?
Yes, just as a little context. I think if I'm thinking of the same person, I have met him, yes.
Okay. And did you ever tell him that the email in question was in your draft emails and you never intended to send it, you never intended to send that email, but it was in your drafts. Did you ever tell Mr. Ranzini that email was in your drafts?
Which emails?
The email in question. Did you ever tell? Let me rephrase my question. Did you ever tell Mr. Steve Ranzini that you were going to forward that Mike Homier email that we're talking about? You were going to forward that to Jessica Flintoff, but you changed your mind. That's my question.
Oh, that conversation never occurred.
Okay. Do you ever check? Do you go on the? Well, let me ask you this. Do you know why Are you aware that Mr. Ranzini posted to Facebook that you had told him that? Are you aware that he posted that? So there would be no reason for him to have posted that as far as you know, correct? Okay. Would it refresh your memory if you looked at that post? Would that help you remember it or help you answer the question?
Is he remembering if he doesn't have any memory of it?
Withdrawn, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, and then what devices, when I say devices, I mean, first of all, how many devices were you using to access your Scioto Township email in November of 2023?
Well, let's see, I do most of my work on my laptop computer. And that travels back and forth with me from home. I also work on my.
I'm sorry, before you go to the second one, can I just ask you real fast about the first one? The laptop, are you talking about the Scioto issued laptop or are you talking about a personal laptop? Like, is it a Mac?
I have a Scioto Township issued laptop during the first 6 months. That's my term. But I prefer using my Apple laptop, so I returned that to the township. I had another need for it, and so I gave it back. The other computer, to finish answering your first question.
Yes.
The desktop computer at my office at Scioto Township.
Okay. Okay, so you used a personal laptop, an Apple laptop, correct?
Yes,
You didn't use the Scioto issued laptop, correct?
not after the first few months. Scioto Township.
Okay, so like in November, let me back up. At any time in 2023, you were elected in 2020, correct?
Correct.
So at no time in 2023 were you using the Scioto laptop. Is that fair?
Well,
I'm sorry, the Scioto laptop that you had returned, that you had given back.
I went back and got repurposed to somebody else.
Understand. So am I right to say that they were really, well, hold on. What about your phone? Did you ever use your phone to send and receive emails?
I rarely do, but never use it for Scioto Township.
But you did use your personal laptop for official emails, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then that just leaves the Scioto meeting laptop. Did you use the Scioto meeting laptop, the one that Miss Carey was using on November 15, 2023? Did you ever use that laptop with your emails?
Well, the only reason that I would use that is to launch a meeting. Remove that laptop from that room, and I never used it for anything except that purpose.
Do you know how your profile for Outlook, the Microsoft Outlook client, do you know how it got loaded or onto that joint Scioto Township laptop? Do you know who put you on there, put your profile on there? If you know.
Well, it's getting into sort of technical area that I'm not that well versed in. My understanding is that the shared laptop in the meeting hall was set up in such a way that when one opened their Outlook email on that computer, it kept it open. That was, in essence, the security problem that existed. My one several that was open on that computer on November.
You know, I'm gonna object and ask that this be stricken, Your Honor, because he has no foundation to say what was opened or what it wasn't open.
You asked him the question.
Okay,
Actually, it's in that report that you showed me earlier from Chris Bailey.
Hold on a second.
it's overruled.
So there were 3 emails that were.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Hathaway, just give us 1 second, please. Does the court need a response or is the?
I do not need a response. I'm gonna let his answer stand.
Thank you so much.
You're not a technical person as far as computers. Is that fair to say?
So don't claim that, I am, no.
And for instance, in this case, you tried to do a Zoom meeting request on November 13th of 2023. And you came to learn that it got sent out at some later time, correct?
At this point, it's a little difficult to remember all of the particulars of that struggle, but
Okay.
it basically stemmed from the person who usually posted the DDA agenda had taken off vacation days and was not there either at the end of the prior week or that day on Monday, the 13th of November, 2023. And so those of us who were there realized that a step had been missed. The Zoom link had not been posted and we were trying to solve it in her absence and struggling with it.
Okay. Well, so let me just finish up this one area. The devices you used, you did not use your phone. You said that, right? Did not use your phone for emails. Okay. So just the personal laptop, the desktop at your office, and then did you have a computer at home that you used, like a desktop at home that you used to check emails, your SIO emails?
No, trying to remember if I've ever used a desktop at home for that purpose. If so, it would have been back in 2021.
Okay. Okay. As far as using your personal Apple laptop for official business, were you advised that that was contrary to the policy of Scioto Township to use your personal devices?
Objection, Felony.
Overruled.
Subsequent to this incident, there was, I guess, kind of a message to that effect. Yes.
Was that from Jessica Flintoff, the clerk?
Yes.
And she asked you to stop using your personal laptop, correct?
Well, she expressed her opposition to my use of my personal computer for township business. I can't remember the exact phrase.
Do you know if any other officials use their personal devices for? Is it possible that you were the only one that used their personal devices for? If you don't know, then you just don't. Okay. And you know, as we sit here today, that your SIO Outlook has sent things in the past without your knowledge or intent. In other words, emails and at least one email, which I'll talk about in a second. But you've had an email and a calendar invite sent from your email account without your intent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and start with the calendar invite. You're aware that a calendar invite went out from your Outlook on November 15th, 2023, about 27 seconds or just seconds before the email that Ms. Carey is charged with sending out. You know that that's a fact that a calendar invite went out at around the same time. 6:08.
I'm going to object this to foundation. The question was if this went from his Outlook, and it is very specific in what I expect will come out in further evidence that one was received by someone in their Outlook coming from an email address, but it came directly from Zoom for an invitation, not Outlook. So I'm going to object to the form of the question and the foundation because I do not believe it is appropriate. And I believe it misstates.
Response.
I'm not really sure what the legal objection is, but I'll move on and try to ask it a different way.
Well, the legal objection is that there's a lack of foundation to your question.
Okay.
So I'll sustain the objection.
Are you aware, did during the course of this investigation, Were you communicating with Detective Parvis?
Yes,
And did you do that through email?
I communicated with Detective Parvis in various ways. I spoke with him on the phone. I think, yes, communicated via email. And
Text.
we eventually met in person. Possibly text messages as well.
You would check in with him every now and then to get updates on the investigation, correct?
Well, at first, when he was actively investigating, there was some back and forth. He was seeking access to various things, and I was trying to facilitate that for him. When he reached the conclusion of his initial investigation in December, he communicated, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really have a lot of back and forth with him after that until he got brought back in by, I think, when the court process started and questions further discovered.
Okay. Now, as to the calendar invite that I'm talking about a calendar invite that was sent from your Outlook on November 15th of 2023. Were you questioned about that by Detective Parvis? Were you asked about that?
That I think came up when this court discovery, that came up exactly, that was in October, something like that.
Right. And you admitted that this calendar invitation was part of you trying to do whatever you were trying to do on the 13th of November of 2023.
I don't know that I admitted it, but I looked into it and I determined that that's what it was related to. At first, it came to my attention actually the day after 16th. That's when the front desk clerical employee at the township notified me that she'd gotten this sort of puzzling calendar invite. And at the time, I was so focused on everything else that that didn't seem that relevant. But when Dr. Parvez was looking into it, I went back, and that's when I realized that it must have been related to the efforts to try and start the Zoom meeting for the DDA.
Do you recall sending out, like doing anything to generate that meeting invitation on November 13th of 2023?
Yeah, I think it was probably created as I was working at the trying to get Zoom started set up for the DDA meeting. So I was sort of running back and forth between meeting hall and the shared computer there, and talking with clerical employee out front at the other end of the township hall to try to enlist her help in getting a Zoom meeting created and a link published.
Did you attempt on November 13th, 2023, did you attempt to send a calendar invitation to Fran Zuma?
Yes, the Fran Zuma is the person I'm talking about. I can't recall all of the back and forth that occurred between 9 and 12:30 that day.
Yep.
We were frantically trying to solve this problem and kind of failing up until finally something worked around 12:20, 12:30.
Do you remember ever hitting send to try to send out this meeting request? If you remember, if you don't.
Well, like I said, I mean, I may have, I'm sure I sent things to her that day. And probably from that shared laptop computer, because that's where I was working, trying to set this.
And Mr. Arthur, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you saying you don't remember sending it? You could have sent the meeting request?
So you were trying to set a Zoom meeting, correct? And so when you're trying, counsel, when you're trying to set a Zoom meeting, the invitations will go out depending on who you have there. It's what it sounds like he's doing.
Understand.
And so I just don't want his testimony to indicate something that doesn't happen. And for anybody setting up a Zoom meeting realizes what happened. Just by the simple things that he's saying to me, I can tell what occurred. And this person happens.
I'll move on, Judge.
Thank you.
And, but you weren't trying to set it up for November 15th, were you?
No, I'm trying to set it up for that day. That's why I was saying it was so urgent.
Understood. But you know that Fran Zuma received it on the 15th, correct?
She found it, well, she reported to me, I got a message from her on the morning of the 16th that she had received this calendar invite for a meeting that had already occurred. And she didn't, I don't think her message to me was anything more specific than that.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I looked at it more closely that I realized it related to that effort 2 days prior, 3 days prior, to start up the DA.
Okay, but you believe that it was related to what you trying to start the meeting on the 13th of November. But you believe that Fran receiving this late meeting request was a result of whatever you were doing on the 13th to start the meeting, correct?
Well, I think that the meeting invite was created, this is my interpretation, I don't know if it's correct, but when I look back at it, as if this meeting invitation is something that was created on Monday, the 13th of November, as we were working together, frantically to, no pun intended, to get the meeting started. And the why it transferred when someone was in my email on my computer, the 15th,
Let me ask you about an email in January on January 31st, 2024. Around this time, this is like just to look at the time frame. This is about 2.5 months after the incident with Jillian Carey. So January 31st, 2024. I want to direct you to that time period. Did you receive an email from someone named Kim? I'm sorry, did you send an email to someone named Kim Moore? Do you recall that?
I sent an email to the members of the transportation advisory. We had just begun meeting in January.
May I approach with Exhibit G, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
G.
Yeah, actually, I'll hold off on approaching for a second, but first I want to ask a preliminary question. I'll let you have a drink. Oh,
That's all right.
okay. And did your email send an email on its own to Kim Moore in January of 2024?
That's another thing that I looked into because
I'm sorry, I do not mean to interrupt you in any way possible, Your Honor. I just would like to ask a yes or no question if I could.
oh, you might.
Well, then you need to phrase it that way.
I'll try better, Your Honor. The question is, did you apologize to Kim Moore for your email, your Outlook sending something?
In her capacity as a member of this transportation advisory committee, yes, because she and the others all received an email from me twice.
Okay. And did you send an email apologizing to Ms. Moore, saying, sorry, this email seems to have sent itself again when I logged in just now?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be an example of, and let me show you, can I approach with Exhibit G now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Hathaway, please look at Exhibit G. And can you tell me whether or not you sent the email that's highlighted? If you recall sending it?
I do.
Okay, and does this appear to be email that you sent on that day? based on your recollection?
It's many that I sent that day, but
Okay.
I did, and as you can see, it's sent to everyone on the committee, not just to Kim.
Understood. At this time, I would move in Defense Exhibit G, Your Honor.
Any objection of order?
Just a brief word here, Your Honor.
Sure.
Mr. Hathaway, you sent this to Kim Moore and it looks like three other people?
And 3 other people. So 4 total.
And can you tell what happened after you sent this email? It was then sent to the defendant as well by Christy Aiken, is that right?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know who sent it on from there.
thank you.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit G is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hathaway, you see the text of Exhibit G where you say the email seems to have sent itself again when I logged in. Can you explain what happened with your email, how your email sent itself, if you know? Or if you don't know, then you don't know.
My email was doing this for a while, and when I became aware of it, I tried to be attentive to the problem. But what I learned is that if I began an email and then hold it, I don't know if it's technical term is for this, but hold it up so you look at a full screen, sort of pulling it out of the smaller context of the email, and worked on it, that sometimes, not always, sometimes it would create this kind of shadow that would still exist in the other place. It only happens on Outlook. It's one of those tedious instances of Outlook, and I don't know if other people have experienced it, but what would sometimes happen is that and send the completed email, and this shadow email would still exist. And I would discover it later, and it would be sort of like an earlier draft of the email that I had sent. And that is, I think, what happened here. The email sent the second time did not have the attached files that I sent with the finished email.
But you did not do anything yourself to send the second email, correct?
No, I think what happened is when I sent it, the first email, finished, attached things, sent it when I was working from home. And when I got to my township office and logged on, somehow it sent it in.
Understood.
But it was an earlier draft of
Understood. And you said just a minute ago in your testimony, you said your email was doing this for a while. What is this? The same? Were you referring
during that period in early 2024. I noticed that it would sometimes do this, and so I became, sort of more careful.
How many? Oh, sorry. Are you done? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop you.
Well, that's okay. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to interrupt you. How many times did it happen apart from the time with Kim Moore and the rest of the folks on this one?
This was maybe one of 3 times that I noticed that this happened. It didn't always send another email. That was funny. But I would discover that there was kind of like an earlier draft that I had already finished.
I see.
And it started bringing to kind of like
Were there other times besides the Exhibit G where the emails were sent? No, he said.
Sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you about the email itself. Do you still have people's A in front of, or people's 1 in front of you? The email that got forwarded?
Yeah.
Now, the person that you're speaking with, Mr. Homier, he's a town attorney for the township, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Homier is not your personal attorney, correct?
Oh, no.
Okay.
He wasn't.
Does he represent the township? Let me back up. Does he interact with members of the board of trustees?
Did when he was serving.
Okay.
He's one of, I should clarify, he's one of several township attorneys.
And people like Miss Carey, she was a trustee at the time, correct?
Objections to the question, because I don't know what time we're talking about, if we're talking about the time of the conversation.
I'll rephrase it. We don't need.
Or 2023.
Rephrase.
Yeah. So let me say it this way. In November of 2023, specifically November 15th of 2023, Jillian Carey was a trustee at Scioto Township, correct?
She was at that time.
And as a trustee of Scioto Township, she could have communications with Mr. Homier as well, couldn't she?
Certainly could.
And she would be privy to his advice to the township, correct?
Objection, it calls for a legal conclusion.
Overrule.
As a trustee, yes, she would have been privy to legal counsel from a township attorney.
So. And the same would be true of Jessica Flintoff, correct?
Yes. Officers of the township are also members of the board of trustees. We're all in it. We're all have the same access to township attorneys.
Thank you. And are you familiar with the email policy for Scioto Township?
I couldn't quote it to you, but.
Okay. Can I approach with Exhibit H?
You can.
Showed you what's been marked Defendant's Exhibit H, Mr. Hathaway, and I'm referring to the Scioto Township Employee Handbook, Section 52. Does this appear to you to be a copy of the email policy? If you know.
Well, this was last amended. It says it now, it was a change. Last amended November 12, 2024. So it appears to be policy as amended.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you this is exactly what the policy was.
Understood. Last amended meaning the last time it changed was November 12th, 2024. Is that how you understand that?
That's how I understand it.
Understood.
That's why, since it has that note, we'll just put that caveat on. I don't know if this is, for example, in November 2023 or July 2022.
Okay. Well, isn't it true that the policy states that that employees don't have a personal privacy right in any email communication?
I have objections to reading from this exhibit before.
I'm not reading. I'm not reading. I'll take that back. I'm not going to introduce it. Oh, can I approach?
Yes. Yeah.
But isn't it true? I'll just ask you this. Isn't it true that you were aware that the policy for emails in Scioto Township was that they were not personal privacy? You have no personal privacy right to those emails. Isn't that the policy?
I understood that any emails, use of the email is not a private thing.
And that you shouldn't expect that it is private, correct?
Well,
I'll withdraw the question.
yeah.
You already answered it. I'll withdraw. And the policy is also that the email system is the property of Scioto Township, correct? And as clerk, as clerk, Jessica Flintoff has access to the Scioto Township emails. Is that correct?
Not sure exactly what you mean. She
Well-
has access to her emails. As the FOIA coordinator, she has access to in a way, everybody's emails.
Right. And the policy you just said is that the email system is the property of the township, not any one person, correct?
Correct?
So if Miss Jessica Flintoff wanted to go and look at any of your emails, she could have done that logistically.
Logistically.
I'm not asking if it's legal. I'm just asking if she physically could have done that
Well, at what time?
in November of 2023.
No. At that time, she was not the FOIA coordinator. So she would not have had that administrative authority.
Even though she was the clerk, correct?
Yes, being
Okay.
the clerk is not the same as being. Unless,
Understood. Thank you. Now, isn't it true? Let me ask you if you know. Do you know whether or not your let me back up. Isn't it true that the Scioto Township computers, all the Scioto Township computers, had been configured to send any emails immediately upon connection to the internet?
Objection Foundation. I don't know if it's-
Sustained.
Question.
You don't know whether or not that there was a configuration to send immediately your emails upon connection. If you don't, you don't know.
technical thing about the.
Okay, thank you. Now, in addition to communicating, as you already talked about with Detective Parvis, you explained that how you communicated to him. Did you also communicate with Deputy Phillips?
I had communications with Deputy Phillips as well during the investigation.
The same methods, emails, calls? How did you communicate with him?
I think it's the same, basically, I think they're the same, because I can't remember. I know I had phone calls and in-person meetings with him. I think I also sent him emails. I know I sent him at least one email.
And also, did you send texts to any of the law enforcement folks? If you know.
I don't think I had text back and forth with Deputy Phillips.
Okay, and speaking with Detective Parvis, did Detective Parvis ever ask you, did you ever provide Detective Parvis with your cell phone?
No. And that's a question that came up during the early days of the investigation. And my recollection is that the primary reason for the request was to verify my location at the time that the email was forwarded. And I found another way to verify location. In fact, the question sort of just went away. It didn't seem to be a big issue. Access to my phone.
So you never provided your phone to Detective Parvis?
Well, it was Deputy Phillips who had asked. I think he had asked, and he said because he had a request. Last time, I'm not sure whom had asked him to ask him for access to my phone, but he did. It was Deputy Phillips.
Okay, this is just a yes or no question. Did Detective Parvis ever ask you to take your phone and extract it for the purpose of extracting what's on it?
No. Parvis did not ask me for that.
Did Detective Parvis ever ask you to have your laptop, your personal laptop? So it could be, to take it to be imaged, basically? He never asked for it.
No, I don't think so. The focus was on the shared laptop.
Have a moment, take the birth of my client, Your Honor. No further question, Your Honor.
Can you redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hathaway, are you a computer forensics expert? Okay. And would you agree that you're not a computer expert in general?
Yeah, no, I often find myself turning to my daughters for advice.
Sure. Defense attorney had asked you about emails for Scioto Township folks. Do you recall that line of questioning, talking about the assigned emails, not using your personal emails, something along that line? Yeah. So let me ask a different question. Maybe this would be better. Are you given a Scioto Township specific email address when you become involved with the leadership of Scioto Township?
Yes.
And is that the email you're to use when sort of conducting business for Scioto Township?
Yes.
Do committee members get these emails, or is it just sort of elected officials?
Some people who are serving as volunteers on advisory boards do have Scioto Township emails. Usually it's like the chair of an advisory committee. And then there's email lists that are created that would include all of the members of, for example, the downtown development board. You could just send to that. So we go to all of them. That's the emails that you see additionally.
Do you know with any certainty which versions of Outlook you've used throughout your time on the Scioto Township board? Yes. As in software versions, not platforms. Okay. May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right.
No, Ross.
You may step now.
Your Honor, may this witness be excused?
Any
Yes.
objection?
No objection.
Witness is excused.
Your Honor, may I have just 5 minutes before we start with Detective Parvis, just for,
How long is that expected to take? Because I was gonna take a break anyway, but I may have to move something if this is gonna be a lengthy.
may we approach? I hate to answer a question with a question, but
Come on.
thank you.
All right, the court has had an opportunity to speak with counsel. We've gotten through 2 witnesses. The last witness for the people, I think, is Detective Parvitz. This may take a substantial period of time, but what I will do is then I will adjourn this matter to May 13th, 2025 at 11 a.m. So I'll have you start at 11 so I can try to clear out the other prelims of the day. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thanks.